All right, that was not very difficult. Now let me find my way back to I Am That by Sri Nisargadatta. And let's see, we've talked about striving, the condition of his world, and how mind is restlessness itself. One of the things that he said, which was quite new to me to hear it, he said, peace of mind is not a real thing. It's not a possible thing. That we get peace from mind by knowing that the mind is not us. And so in that sense, the mind becomes not the mind itself, but the contents of the mind become what they are, become just thought, just distraction. They have no inherent reality. They are the changing. And Thakur tells us that that which changes is unreal. And I've used this quite a bit lately in my practice, which I feel like, and I'm not one that can judge a practice, but they've been very satisfying with two changes that I've made about 3 or 4 days ago, which, oh my goodness, just delightful. Actually, I was experimenting when I was in Atlanta in the shrine there. The not here, not now idea, which I talked about in the vlog, where anytime a thought would arise in my mind that wasn't the mantra or wasn't just a simply sitting in the presence, I would remind myself that that thought, whatever it was not here, and it's not now, because all thought is not about the present, because you can't think in the present. You're always in the past when you have a thought or are watching your thoughts, or paying attention to your thoughts anyway. And so I would say not here and not now, to remind me the nature of the disturbing thought, that it is not real because it's not of the moment, and it's not of the place that I'm in. It's involving something somewhere else. And at the same time, it's a command to the mind, which means don't bring that in here now, not here and not now. So it's both. And that's what was so interesting about it, is that I could kind of just interject that not here, not now, and do two things. One, recognize the nature of the content of mind, and then also banish it simultaneously and come back to the sweet presence. And I'm going to continue talking about this for a second here, because it's been so important to me. I really felt a breakthrough in it, in this idea of not being the doer, and understanding that when we are not the doer, God manifests. When we know that when we sit there in meditation and we just simply wait, or simply sit or stew like a rasgola in the sweetness of the remembrance of the beloved presence, that at first that's an exercise, like we're projecting it in mind, because that's just how we're used to thinking. That's how we're used to doing. But the fact is that your undoing is your freedom. You have to attach from mind. It's not the conditions of your mind that are going to bring you your realization. It's the absence of mind. And so in meditation, you truly, truly are trying to do nothing, because anything that you're doing is egoism. And egoism is the veil. It is what prevents you from experiencing the divine in the moment. You don't experience the divine by thinking about the divine. We get there that way. That's our effort to kind of be able to extricate ourselves from mind. But in reality, there's no doing, because it's what you are. You're not looking for God, or shouldn't be looking for God, because you're never going to find the divine reality or the ultimate reality in that way, because you are that. And the only way to know that, or to have a knowledge of that, is by absolute silence within. At first, we have to keep the mantra going, and we have to be constantly thinking about God, because that's what we're addicted to, and that's where we're at, and we're not able to escape mind. But ultimately, once we've kind of gotten the good practice of being able to somewhat control our mind, or at least perceive mind as separate from us, through using the mantra and through the constant awareness of presence, you take it one more step in Advaita, in Jnana Yoga anyway. You take it that one more step where you just, in your meditation, all you have to do is be. There's no description to it. You don't have to do anything. Well, then that's the whole point. You're not doing anything. You're not thinking anything. You're not trying anything. You're not working on anything. You really are just trying to be. And in that awareness, it becomes apparent to you that you are Satchitananda, because you will be bliss will be the experience, and not really an experience, because bliss is also what you are. You become bliss in that moment. You become wisdom in that moment. You become the present moment in that moment. You're not separate from that in the ultimate ideal. So you're not being present in the moment. You are the present moment in the deepest meditation, in that purest form. You're not experiencing love. You become love in that sense. And it's not that you actually become it. It's that you become aware that when nothing else is there, that's what you are. That's how the sages knew, or have uncovered or discovered or became aware of, however you want to talk about the untalkable about, that they were Satchitananda, they were love, and they were intelligence, and they were being. And so to be being, that means you are the moment, because you're not separate from the moment. You've never been outside of the moment. You are that moment. All right. And so last week, his last question to Maharaj was, had I never lost anything, I would have been enlightened, but I am not. I am searching. Is not my very search a proof of having lost something? And see, oh my goodness, I can't wait till we go over this answer, because this is exactly our mistake. This I, who's taking responsibility and has placed itself on a line and removed itself from the point, has gotten so confused that it thinks that it has to realize God. It thinks that it has to have a realization, or that it's lost something, or that it's fallen, or that it has to fix something, or repair something, or remember something. When all of that is false. All of those are verbs. And what are you going to do with a verb if you're not the doer? Verbs are useless to us as well, to the self, because there's no doing to it. It's just stop believing your mind. Stop thinking there's any thought that is worthwhile. Stop it with thought, because thought is what? It's just a wave. There's nothing there. And when you're meditating, you don't have to fight off thoughts. You have to stop interpreting them as meaningful. They're just waves. They're just disturbances in the present, in being. And they take you out of the present, and they take you into the mind, and they provide you with story then. You become the doer. You become the experiencer. But you're only experiencing thoughts. Everything. If I were to come there and bonk you on the nose right now, that would not be an action. That would simply be a thought in your mind. Ah, the nose has been bonked. Even the feeling of the nose being bonked is a feeling, is a thought. It doesn't actually occur. It's simply a thought. Everything happens in the mind. That's why Thakur tells us many times, why Holy Mother tells us many times, and why Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj is going to tell us many times, that everything is mind. Everything. That's a wonderful meditation, to sit there and realize everything that you're thinking, everything right now that you're feeling, everything that you're experiencing is all happening only in mind. Even the body is in mind and is only a thought to you. But you live in there, and you identified with it all, and you've begun to think that your thoughts are real. And that is how we know the unreality of the universe, as we come to understand through a constant practice that it is all dream, that it is all mind stuff. And actually, the new word for mind stuff is Brahman. Right? It is Brahman that is able to take the shape of your thoughts, and through taking the shape of your thoughts is able to create through her Shakti, your living experience of the world, mind, and body, right? So he says, so our questioner is saying, so if I'm searching, is that not proof that I've lost something? Well, it's proof that you've forgotten something for sure. Swami Prabhupada always used to use that example of searching all over the house for your phone. You can't find your phone anywhere. And when you've looked everywhere and you can't find it, you give up the search and you sit down and it vibrates and it's in your back pocket. You never lost your phone. You just forgot that you had placed it in your back pocket. And so it is with spiritual life. You never lost God. You never became deluded. You simply forgot who you were, even though it's right there within your own self. It's just before your thoughts. And since you're lost in thought, you don't know where it is. You think it's gone. So Maharaj says, well, your search for something only shows that you believe you have lost it. But who believes it? Right? Where is this belief happening? And what is believed to be lost? Right? So if you think you've lost something, you better know what it looks like. Right? So I ask you, what are you looking for? Right? If you don't know what it looks like, if you don't know what it is, how are you going to find it? And this is the delusion of thinking that we need to do or search for the divine. We have no idea what we're looking for. If you don't know what you're looking for, you're not going to find it. How are you going to recognize it, right? How are you going to know where even to look for it? And so this notion is like, who believes that you lost something? Where is that coming from in you? That's a condition of mind, right? It's a condition of mind to think that you've lost something. And so you just simply accept that as reality. Oh, God is separate from me and I've lost him, or I'm out of touch with him. Now I shall go look for him, as if he is another thought in your mind, as if he is another object in the world, right? Another wave in the mind. And he's not. He's the mind itself, the pure mind, the mind with no thought. And what is that? And even as I say that, the mind tries to abstract it into a separate thing, like, oh, we're talking about a mind. And it creates the idea of a mind and places it within itself. And you start thinking about mind and running after it as if that's somewhere to go. When in fact, what you need to do is back away and look at mind, become aware of mind, and understand its nature. It's just burping thoughts all the time. One born out of the previous one, fed by the sensations of the body, spiced with some memories from the past, and stirred by your assumptions about a story, a narrative of being. And you get mixed in the stew, right? And you are the stew, and you're looking for yourself. And so he says, and what is believed to be lost? Have you lost a person like yourself? What is the self that you are in search of? What exactly do you expect to find? Right? Because this is that hilarity. This is why this is one of those beautiful things about the experience of the divine, I think, is the sense of humor. Like mother's always talking about, and you read in the gospel, I mean, Thakur was just great fun. The divine mother and Ramakrishna, all the incarnations, they've got a hilarious sense of humor. And even our plight is a private joke that we play on ourselves. We hid the truth from ourselves. We've hidden our own reality from ourselves, and the game is to find it. And that's what we're involved in. That's what we're playing here. So what do you expect to find? And the questioner says, well, true knowledge of the self, right? Can't you just see how everything he just said, he's abstracted as separate from himself? A true knowledge of the self, not a true knowledge of myself or this self, or of being. He says, of the self, I'm going to go look. And Maharaj says, the true knowledge of the self is not a knowledge. It's not a thought. It's not an arrangement of relativity in your mind. It's not there. It is not something that you find by searching, because it can't go in front of the senses. You can only find things that are on the front side of your senses, right? Go looking for your face. You're never going to find your face. Your face is not in front of you. You can't place it in front of your senses, and go and get it. the source of your watching. And so it's the same with our quest here. There is nothing outside of ourselves. There's nothing in our mind that we need. We are complete and whole, blissful, ecstatic. As soon as we move out of mind, and as soon as we let go of our stories of misery and of suffering that happen when we step into the changing world and try to find stability there by creating an ego, we're stuck in misery, right? So the true knowledge of the self is not a knowledge. It's not in the mind, not a thought. It is not something that you find by searching, because it's not in front of your senses. It's not something you're going to observe. It is not to be found in space or time, right? So it can't involve a narrative. It can't involve an actual being somewhere else, right? Because you're in the middle of it. It's like being in the ocean and going in search of water, right? You don't know, if you don't know that you're in the water and surrounded by the water, you're just not, you're going to go look for water. Well, what are you looking for, and how are you going to find it? You're in it. It's all around you, but it's invisible. You can't see it. And you long ago accepted the feeling of the water all around you. And so it's become a form of white noise that the sense of touch has blotted out or filtered out. And so you're a fish in search of water. Knowledge is but a memory, right? It's a wave, it's a thought in mind. Everything in mind is a memory. All of it's in the past. That's why egoism is so dangerous, because ego is composed entirely of the past. And if we believe that is what we are, our ego self, we are completely unaware of the present moment, because we're actually being actuated by our desires, which lie in the future, based on our attachments, which lie in our past. Knowledge is but a memory, a pattern of thought, a mental habit. All these are motivated by pleasure and pain, right? Discomfort. Oh yeah, whatever. You know that you're in pain because you're looking for something to take care of it, to get rid of it. Spiritual life. You've recognized the constant change of the world and how it's constantly crashing against yourself, the self inside, which is always still, always at peace. But you have become aware of the waves only, not the deeper parts. It is because you are goaded by pleasure and pain that you are in search of knowledge. See, there it is. It's because of that. Being oneself is completely beyond all motivation. Why? I mean, just think of the funny thing. I mean, beyond all motivation, it's what you are. Who cares what you're motivated to? It's like, who cares what you're doing? It's inescapable. It's everywhere around you. You see, and this is what is so delightful in meditation. Meditation is simply relaxing into what is, by not identifying with what the mind is telling you about it. Just letting the mind go and understanding that it's not there. You're not going to find it there. So don't be interested in your arrangement of thoughts. Don't go searching in the mind, and don't go searching in sensation. If you feel something while you're meditating, don't think that it's God. It may be indicative of drawing closer to the presence, but it's not the thing itself. So don't go searching for bliss. Don't go searching for our feelings of bliss. Don't go searching for that flashing light or the sparkling mantras or any of these other experiences that come along in meditation. They're just mind stuff. They're just thoughts. They belong to the changing. Yes, they indicate that you're on the right road, but they're not the thing itself. Being oneself is completely beyond all motivation. You cannot be yourself for some reason. You are yourself, and no reason is needed. No practice is needed. No, nothing is needed. You just have to stop putting on costumes and pretending that you're something else. That's it. Stop putting on that princess dress with your little tiara and running around looking for what a princess needs. Stop doing it. you know, be yourself. And what is yourself? Love. So everything should be motivated, should be actuated, inspired by that which is when nothing else is, love. That which is when nothing else is, your intelligence. All in this experience of awareness of thoughts, awareness of mind. But so what we're trying to do, we're not trying to get rid of thoughts and mind. It's that to have a thought, the awareness has to be there. The self has to be there. But we're always paying attention to the other end of the stick. We're always paying attention to the changing part, to the thought of the mind, to what's going on in the mind. But use all of the changing in your mind and body to remind you, to point at the fact that the reality is there. That's how this is all dancing. You are the container within which all of this is happening. And so instead of being interested in the changing, be interested in that which is watching the change. And then don't be disturbed by a noisy mind. Use the noisy mind to indicate the silent self. It's only because of silence that you can hear noise. It's only because of space that you can see objects. And so let objects remind you of the space, and let sound remind you of the silence, and not just remind it to you, but indicate, make you aware of the end of the stick that you're on, not the end of the stick that your experience is on, or the changing is on, or the thing that is fun to you or distracting to you. And the questioner says, well, I did attain a degree of inner peace. Am I to destroy it? If it's destroyable, you don't want it. It's unreal, right? If he had truly found the inner peace that is the inner peace that's spoken about, it's beyond understanding, which means it's not going to be just a little feeling of, I feel fine, I'm at peace. Well, not really. I can take it away in a moment, give you some bad news, come up and, slap you for no reason. Suddenly your inner peace is gone, right? But not so for the enlightened. So, I did attain a degree of inner peace. Am I to destroy it? What has been attained may be lost again, right? Perfect. Just know this. It's not an attainment. If it's not an attainment, what are you hoping to get out of your meditation? If your meditation is about getting something, then you're playing the game. You're lost in the circle. You're on the stationary bicycle, watching thoughts, chasing ideas. You're sitting in the movie and the movie has begun, right? So what has been attained may be lost again. So we're not looking to get anything in meditation. We're looking to be silent enough to become aware of what we have, what we are, our nature. Only when you realize the true peace, the peace you have never lost, right? As soon as you stop reading the story no longer goes on, and you're at peace. So if you're reading Alice in Wonderland and you're terrified by what's going on, don't continue to be lost in the book. Put the book down, and suddenly Wonderland is gone, and there's just you, the reader. And so this is what meditation is. It's setting down the book of the mind. Stop reading. Stop being engaged in the story, the narrative of it, the one that told you that you're imperfect, the one that told you you need something, the one that said you're hungry, or that you want pleasure, or that you want this, that, or the other. Those are all stories. They are in the book. Put the book down. Only when you realize the true peace, the peace that you have never lost, that peace will remain with you. Right? It cannot be destroyed. Once you're aware of it, once you've come out of the book, set the book down, that's the actual, that's the isness. For that peace will remain with you. Why? Because that's why they call it realization. It was never away. It was never separate from you. That's why when the phone is in your back pocket, you looked all over the house. It's not that you found your phone. It's that you realized your phone was in your back pocket. It was never lost. You just had the wrong idea about where to look for it, where to find it, because it wasn't lost. It was in your pocket. Instead of searching for what you do not have, find out what is it that you have never lost. That which is there before the beginning and after the ending of everything, that to which there is no birth or death, that immovable state which is not affected by birth and death of a body or a mind, that state you must perceive, right? You must, that is what, that's an interesting thing that he says, that state you must perceive. It's, I guess peace is a state, in a sense, awareness of peace. The peace itself is you, but if you're going to look at it, if you're going to enjoy it, you have to perceive it. But you can't perceive the peace itself. What you perceive is the indications in mind that peace is that peace is the reality. It reflects in mind. So if you're going to experience it, it's going to be a reflection in mind. If it's a reflection in mind, it's just going to be an indicator that you are undisturbed. But the undisturbance is constant and total, whether you're aware of it or not. What are the means to such a perception? In life, nothing can be had without overcoming obstacles. The obstacles to the clear perception of one's true being are desire for pleasure and fear of pain. So they are the result of a wave in the mind. Leave alone your desires and fears. Give your entire attention to the subject, right? Go to the other end of the stick. What is that which is desiring? What is that which is wanting? Who is observing the desire? Right? If I'm observing the desire, it's not me. So what is desiring? And this is very important because when we talked a while back about going inside and finding the boundaries of mind and body within your inner world. And part of doing that, a very easy discovery comes forward quite quickly. All desires, all aversions belong to either body or mind. The self does not produce any of them. The self is unaffected by any of them. It's simply the body or the mind. And so this is the power of I am not body and I am not mind, is that when you're sitting in meditation, then you're placing your awareness on your self, on the stillness, turning it into kind of an intuitive awareness of being, that we don't run after anything else that is arising. We become merely aware, and we say, "Oh, that's body. It's hungry. The body is hungry. Look, there's the desire belongs to the body. I'm not the body." Right? And so you can decide whether the mind to engage the mind in order to feed the body or not. But it really has very little to do with you. You sit there, I'm depressed. No, you're not depressed. The mind is depressed, right? I'm not the mind. So I can choose to experience the depression or not. I'm not the mind. I'm looking through a depressed mind. And so you have your permission. You've given yourself permission to break your cycle of karma and not be subjected to something you've identified yourself with. I'm a depressed person. No, you're not. You're Satchitananda. Remember that all the time. Stop looking at the condition of your mind, naming it as depression, and then jumping into it, experiencing it, identifying with it, defining yourself that way. Because if you define yourself that way and you begin your sentence with that intention, you will suffer for it. Right? Leave alone your desires and fears. Give your entire attention to the subject, to him who is behind the experience of desire and fear. Ask, who desires? Let each desire bring you back to yourself. And all of these are, this is organic, and so we don't. Mother's not in these sentences. Thakur's not in these sentences. Jesus, Buddha, Rama, they're not in these sentences, but they can be. They can be. You can understand that which is going to become apparent to you is the presence of Thakur. And what is Thakur at his heart? He is that which you are. He's the highest and most powerful representation or manifestation of the self in human form. And so that's why we use a mantra in Bhakti, for the Bhaktas. That's why we use a mantra, because it reminds us of something that we think is separate of ourselves. And when we come into relationship with that something, it helps us to find ourselves, because the love that we will be attracted to is actually of ourself, of emanating from the divine principle within. And so by actuating that love, by letting it manifest as a feeling or as an atmosphere or a bliss that's inside, that's all fine, but don't go looking for that. Relax into that. That will come when everything else stops. That ecstasy happens not when you found something tasty and delicious. That ecstasy happens when you have nothing and there is nothing. And when the mind has stopped telling what you are, when the mind has stopped using words to describe you and attributes to limit you, what you will not experience in that experience, right, is being. So leave these things all alone. Give your entire attention to the subject, which means intuitively. You can't really even, well, you can turn your attention on attention, but it's an abstraction a little bit. It's an intuitive way of thinking. It's like looking at your peripheral vision and not what you're looking at. It's exactly like that, actually. So like right now you're looking at the screen. Do it as an exercise for a second and get an idea of it. Look at the screen that you're looking at, and then instead of paying attention to the screen, and without moving your eyes off the screen, obviously, become aware of everything around the screen. Right? And so when you are meditating, it's not what you're looking at, what you're focusing on, that we're interested in. It's the focuser itself, the attention itself. So in the same way you become a peripheral, you have to focus and hold yourself still for a moment to keep your eyes focused on something while you become aware of periphery vision. It's kind of the same way. Say your mantra, but then become aware of that which is hearing the mantra. Become aware of that which is repeating the mantra. Your peripheral vision, but don't take your eyes off of the mantra. Don't take the mantra away. Don't forget it. Keep it going, but expand your awareness and focus more on that which is the experiencer, the repeater, the watcher, the observer. Ask who desires. Let each desire bring you back to yourself, right? So this is the magic of how we actually transcend the pure mind, or transcend the noisy mind. It's not because we've gone in and quieted it. It's because we realized it's not us, and so we don't care whether it's quiet or not. Everything that it's doing and changing and moving reminds us or indicates or points to that which is not, that which is observing, that which has never moved, that which has never changed, that which has never slept, that which has never been born, has never been never died, has never been died. that is your Satchitananda. Right? The root of all desires and fears is the same. It's the longing for a happiness, right? So the questioner says that Maharaj answers him, the happiness you think of and long for is a mere physical or mental satisfaction. Such sensory or mental pleasure is not real. The absolute is happiness. And that absolute is yourself. This is a very interesting thing. What is the difference between being happy, like experiencing happiness, and the being of happiness? You're surrounded in it. You're sitting in it. It's your nature. And you back into it through the practice of not this, not this, not this within jnana. Or you can back in it that way. I keep mother in my jnana just by saying that the end result is the lap of mother always. That when you realize the past is unreal and you stop being controlled by its narrative, and when you realize that the future is only composed of your desires and your plans to get them, and you back out of that as unreal because you can't show me the future and you can't show me the past, You come into the moment, and what is the moment? The moment is the container that holds the happiness you're searching for. The moment is the container for the being that you're longing for the fulfillment that you're longing for. And so we reach these things not by coming up with a new pattern of thoughts or another philosophy of thought castles. We come to it through silence, through the understanding, and that silence, again, is not a produced silence. It's the silence when you know and understand that you are not the mind and that you are not the body, and the resulting, quote, experience is absolute happiness, absolute bliss, absolute being, because the narrative telling you the lies of need and hunger has stopped, and you're squarely in the moment, and you come to be the moment, which is a very high state, but it's your being that is your satisfaction, and not the experiences that are your satisfaction. The questioner says, well, even sensory and mental pleasures and the general sense of well-being which arises with physical and mental health must have their roots in reality. Maharaj says, they have their roots in imagination, right? This entire world is mind. Everything that we're experiencing is only a thought. We don't experience objects. We experience thoughts that we interpret as objects. We experience thought that we interpret as people. And we even experience thought that we think is God. That's the delusion. You have to look at who is watching, at what is watching, what is experiencing, what is conjuring. You have to pay attention not to the changing, but to the unchanging observer. And that unchanging observer is both you and God simultaneously. So they have their roots in imagination. A man who is given a stone and assured that it is a priceless diamond will be mightily pleased until he realizes his mistake. In the same way, pleasures lose their tang and pains lose their barb when the self is known. Both are seen as they are. They're just conditional responses, mere reactions, mere thoughts, right? Plain attractions and repulsions based on memories of preconceptions. Usually, pleasure and pain are experienced when expected. It is all a matter of acquired habits, acquired convictions, right? Oh, ice cream makes me happy. Well, ice cream doesn't make you happy because it shows you a state that you can't maintain. So happiness actually, ice cream actually brings you misery. Your pleasures, your pleasures, sex pleasures, intoxication pleasures, distraction pleasures, they're not pleasures. They're only pleasures when you put boundaries right at the beginning of the sensation and right at the end of the sensation and forget everything else. But really, they are the cause of your misery because they don't last, and they only create more hunger. Now, that's my problem with eggnog. Eggnog is the one desire that makes me aware that my tongue will never be long enough. Right? That is misery. That's misery. Even if I could drink it all the time, I'd have to find a new place to acquire it because they don't sell it, except from November to February. So both are seen as they are. Your pains and your pleasures are seen for what they are, that they're just conditioned responses. Right? They're conditioned responses, mere reactions, plain attractions and repulsions based on memories or preconceptions. Usually, pleasure and pain are experienced when expected. It is all a matter of acquired habits and conviction. Questioner: well, pleasure may be imaginary, but pain is real. This guy must have a miserable life. His pleasures are imaginary, but his pain is real. Maharaj: no, pain and pleasure always go together. They're the wave and the lull behind it. They cannot be separated. Freedom from one means freedom from both, right? Because you have to have one to have the other. You can't have light unless you're aware of darkness. You can't have happiness unless you're aware of sadness. They're all relative states, right? That's why when you go to the doctor and they point at that little chart on the wall, how bad is your pain? No. You have to pick the happy face or the face that best describes your situation. Why? Because pain isn't just pain. Even pain itself is relative, right? There's always levels of pain. So you can't separate them. You can't have a life of just happiness. That's the absurdity of trying to create it. You can't do it. It's like trying to find a quarter with only one side. It doesn't happen. Freedom from one means freedom from both. If you do not care for pleasure, you will not be afraid of pain. But there is happiness, which is neither, which is completely beyond. It's not a thought, right? It's a reality. It's not something you can put into your mind and think about. All the thoughts will be false because it cannot be described by thoughts, by waves, because in its nature it is the utter lack of waves. The happiness you know is describable and measurable. It is objective, so to say, but the objective cannot be your own. It would be a grievous mistake to identify yourself with something external. Oof. Swami Prabhupada would always use a Mercedes for this, his example of this. He laughed one time because one of our devotees there in San Francisco, a very wealthy man actually, had just gotten a Mercedes, and he actually told Swami, and Swami laughed and laughed. He thought it was the greatest thing. He told Swami, if somebody scratched my Mercedes, I bleed. And isn't that the truth? That's what identity is, right? You may not physically bleed, but you're going to be angry, right? Which is the same thing. You're going to have a reaction to it. Because you have a reaction, that indicates you're attached to it. That was done to me. Somebody scratched what? My car. Right? And that's why you care. If somebody scratched your neighbor's car, oh well, too bad. Hardly any reaction at all. If someone scratches a stranger's car, you don't even know it. But it's the same occurrence.
That's why as soon as you drive it off the lot, you should kick a dent in the door and just go ahead and get it over with.
That's exactly right. Exactly right. This is the nature of it. It's the if your sister dies, or if your sibling dies or your friend dies, you're terribly sad. If the neighbor's friend or sister dies, well, you might be sad depending on your attachment to the neighbor, right? But right now in the world, there's thousands of sisters dying. There's thousands of friends dying, and you don't care at all. It's not disturbing you at all. Why? It's still somebody dying, because you're not attached. You're not attached to it. And so you take it in stride. You know that it's part of you. It's just part of the experience of this world. And so this is where we find our peace. This is where we come to know, when we understand that our concerns are arbitrary. It would be a grievous mistake to identify yourself with something external. This churning up of levels leads nowhere. Reality is beyond the subjective and the objective, beyond all levels, beyond every distinction. Most definitely is not their origin, source, or root. These come from ignorance of reality, not from reality itself. This is very, very, very big clue right here. This sentence is wonderful. These come from the ignorance of reality, not from reality itself. Right? So what is reality itself? It's isness. You don't have to find it. You just have to see it for what it is. Not think about it, because that's telling a story of mind. You're not looking at reality if you're looking at the mind. You're not looking at reality if you're looking at thoughts. Thoughts are not real. They change. Anything that changes is unreal. So these come from ignorance of reality, not from reality itself. So that's why we talk about relaxing into this. You don't have to produce reality in order to experience it. So your practice is not a production. Your practice is a surrendering of all of your thoughts, every one of them. And even less than that, actually, it's the surrender, not so much of the thoughts, it's the surrender of your attachment to thoughts, your caring about your thoughts, your attention to them. Right? Most definitely is not there. So, these come from ignorance of reality, not from reality itself, which is indescribable. What does that mean? It means you're not going to be able to think about it. It means that it's not going to be an experience of mind. When it happens to you, as it were, you're not going to be able to go tell anybody about it because it doesn't fit there. To tell somebody something, you have to step into mind, find the thought of that person wherever they're hidden, and tell them about another thought. This is not a thought, and this is not describable. It is indescribable, beyond being and not being. So what does that mean, beyond being and not being? How can you have not being? Well, being is when you're conscious. Not being is when you're aware, right? Awareness has no objects in it. Awareness with objects in it is consciousness. So when you're conscious, you know that because you're aware of objects. But we want to go beyond that. This is this is a state that's almost mythical in how high it is. But it's funny because it's not really high or low. It just is. And it's yours. And it's what you're experiencing, or it's what your experiences are in right now. It's indescribable, beyond being and not being. A questioner, well, many teachers that I have followed and studied, oh, he's putting it in weird English here. Many teachers have I followed and studied many doctrines, yet none gave me what I wanted. He's just not listening, is he? It's a little frustrating. It's like, dude, he's answered that question in like 5 different ways already. But this is the nature of mind. It's one of the things I always tease people about. It's like the first thing you learn, one of the first things you learn in Vedanta is that I've never been born and I've never died. And then the first question of every Vedanta student is, what happens when I die? So he's going through the same problem here. So many teachers have I followed and studied many doctrines, yet none gave me what I wanted. I spoke to several people that had this complaint just this last weekend. I've gone to so many teachers. I've read many traditions. I've been shopping for a great ashram my whole life, and I just can't find it. It fits for a while, but then doesn't fit anymore. And the Maharaj says, the desire to find the self will surely be fulfilled. Okay, there's a promise for you. There's an assurance. Don't give up. Don't even get tired, right? It's hard to get tired of not doing. So he says, the desire to find the self will surely be fulfilled, provided you want nothing else. That's the whole point. Everything else is only a thought. Only the observer of thought is real. So obviously, you know that you become aware of self when you want nothing else, because you will not attach to any thought if you want nothing else. And without an attachment to thought, there is no misery. There is no happiness or joy. There is only bliss, a profound, deep, wondrous contentment. No big manner of excitement or flash of glory or anything, just simply a profound and deep experience of bliss. So intense, though, that it will short out the mind. It'll set you into ecstasy and leave the body in literally a stunned state, a state of stun. Like, oh. All right. So you will definitely find yourself, but you must be honest with yourself and really want nothing else. If in the meantime you want many other things and are engaged in their pursuit, your main purpose may be delayed until you grow wiser and cease being torn between contradictory urges, right? Stop loving the things that take away your bliss. Stop loving the things that disturb your mind. Stop loving the things that make you unaware, that distract you, that intoxicate you. Stop loving those things. Stop desiring those things. Let go completely of everything that is external to you, including your own thoughts and thinking. Become uninterested. because you are constantly aware of awareness itself. Go within without swerving, without ever looking outward. Right? How do we look outward? We look at the thoughts of mind. That's going, believe it or not, that's going outward. Right? Outward from the self. To looking at thoughts. All thoughts. Thoughts are always generated. Thoughts are disturbances. And all thoughts, all thinking has their root in me and mine. Ownership. Particularity. Boundary. Questioner. Yes, his big problem here. But my desires and fears are still there. They'll always be there. Stop calling them my feeling, my desires, my fears. Understand that they do not describe, fulfill, or have anything to do with you. Where are they but in your memory? They're just thoughts. You're holding on to them. That's why. You're interested in the thought of fear. You're interested in the thought of pleasure. They don't haunt you at all. You're just identifying with them. You think they have something to do with you. Where are they but in your memory? Realize that their root is in expectation, which is born of memory, and they will cease to obsess you. This is discernment, going in and seeing the real nature of desire. Desire is just an arrangement of thoughts. Its fulfillment is also an arrangement of thoughts. And the happiness that you experience is just an arrangement of thoughts. Behind all thinking is bliss. Behind all thinking is being. Behind all thinking is wisdom. Not in thinking, not in the pursuit of thought, but behind it. So we'll stop there this morning.